What's up, YouTuber fans, streaming fans, cryptocurrency fans? It's your boy Rip VR. Welcome to the show. I have a special guest right here. Nice to meet you, James, again. He's a representative from Waves platform. And could you just tell us what do you represent with
Sure.
Waves platform?
Well, I'm a council ambassador for Waves platform, which basically means I promote Waves. So more out of my free will than for as a professional occupation or just as a hobbyist.
Okay, and could you just give us a brief description of what Waves is to the people out there who's watching?
Sure. So if I was to explain something to my mother, or even maybe somebody that's somewhat familiar with it, I would say Waves is a direct competitor of Ethereum. So whereas Ethereum, you could go build your next project off of, your token, as it were, you could do the same thing off Waves, whereas the main difference between Waves and Ethereum is that Ethereum is very customizable, which is a good thing, but it also makes it incredibly complex and expensive for most people. So it's where you're choosing, do I want simplicity and less cost versus complexity and maybe some features that you wanted. So depending on who you are and what you're looking for, Waves is the easiest way for you to create your own token.
Okay, from what I know of Waves, I heard of the massive ICO you guys had, and it's a proof of stake coin, and there's a couple of nodes that run on there. You have to have like 10,000 coins. But what really caught my eye was you can create your own coin on the platform. Could you give me some more information on that?
Well, I mean, I think you said it all right there. But during the Waves meetup in Chicago, I created one basically, if you want, in 30 seconds, where if you want to create a token, you could make a token super quickly and without knowing how to code Solidity or any sort of coding knowledge whatsoever. You can create a token and then it goes on the exchange and it's all inside the Waves platform and it costs, right now about $2 to do.
Oh man!
So versus whoever knows how many man hours of coding and finally getting your token on an exchange somehow. It's much more approachable for a technological novice to create their own token with Waves versus Ethereum or some of the other competitors out there.
Man, incredible. So if you guys have a company and you guys want to make some shares of your company, you can go through Waves platform and create a token and have your shares out there. Now, it all depends on the laws of your state, so just remember that. So we have some questions here. So how are you guys making this blockchain accessible to like normal people like me?
Me? Sure. Well, like me. So ultimately, what's scaring people off and preventing from blockchain from really expanding is just how complex it is. And I'm sure you find out when you explain to somebody else about your interest in crypto, and then they look at you blankly and they say, "Well, just Venmo me the money. Just stop giving me your speeches." It's how can we make things simpler and more comfortable for somebody that's coming in to the blockchain world. So if you go to client.wavesplatform.com, what you'll see there is like a very familiar trading platform. So if you have like an E-Trade account or something like that, you'll see the charts, you'll have all the functionality. And if it's somebody that's totally brand new, you can go to waveswallet.io, and the wallet's very similar to, say, if you have an online banking account with Chase or something, where you just have a few tabs, you can create a token, you can see how many tokens you have, see your latest transactions. It's very simple and familiar. So for anyone that's new, that's what I recommend is like the first way to understand blockchain, what this all means, and unless it's simple, it's just not going anywhere, right? It's gonna stay with a few people. So
okay, and are there any new developments of Waves platform?
So very recently, there was they're coming out with smart contracts, non-Turing complete smart contracts for Waves, hopefully by the end of this month. And there's a few YouTube demos where they're on the command line and they're creating these sort of smart contracts, and it's going to allow some sort of say if you want to lock up your token, if you want to do multi-signature accounts, which if you're not familiar means instead of, say, if you create a company and you can't give one person control of all the tokens or else they leave, then exit scam it, right?
Yeah.
So one way you can do, if the only way for a transaction to take place is for have 2 out of 3 or 3 out of 3 people okay the transaction, it's a way of preventing a lot of the fraud that's kind of been going on within the blockchain world, as it were. So this is just an effort. All these new things are about more or less solidifying what you can do with waves, and if you can lock up tokens, it allows certain transactions or certain scenarios for transactions. And same thing with multi-signature, how the smart contracts work. Should be pretty interesting too. I'm not as familiar with what smart contracts, what they're going to look like and how simple it will be for the users, but I know that functionality is pretty much here already.
Could you give us some insight on, I don't know if this is the correct term, the decentralized exchanges that they're going to have on Waves platform?
Okay, well, it's already there.
Okay.
So basically, it's instead of, say, Binance or Bitfinex or any of these, Waves doesn't hold any of your tokens. So the tokens are still inside your wallet, and then when you go onto the Waves decentralized exchange, you are trading from your wallet to another wallet. So it's not like there's not one place ultimately that can be hacked and all your stuff taken. So that's it's more of a security concern that Waves was worried about, was getting it decentralized.
And you guys are going to have, well, it won't be decentralized, but able for people to trade their Waves or their Ethereum for Fiat Cash?
Well, technically that functionality, technically, is already here. The problem with Fiat are laws and banks.
Yeah.
It's not really a problem of the technology allowing it. But as far as I know, I think Turkish Lira, you're good. Which I know not probably a lot of your viewers give a damn about the Turkish Lira, but that's going to be really where we're going to have to work on the legal front, political front, and see what we can get. Because
they want to know their customer, and there's going to be a lot of KYC, knowing your customer, asking for information. A lot of people don't want to give out, but it's a good thing. If you want to make business with a bank, those are the things you go through.
Right, exactly. And honestly, for this to grow out of like a garage hobbyists area, that we need to have people comfortable about coming in, that that banks can come in, that of course with banks come customers, and with that you get more liquidity and you get a better exchange. So I personally welcome it. I understand there's a lot of people out there that like, I hate the banks, let's take all their money, they're evil. Like banks exist because people they're profitable because people use them. So that's something that's gonna just evolve, I think, and the technology is already sufficient.
I don't see fiat going anywhere. I just think that overall there is going to be crypto, and there is continues going to be fiat.
Sure. Well, the thing is, I don't know, hopefully we're not devolving too much, but the dollar is probably not going away. Because ultimately you still have to pay your taxes, and maybe it's not fair, but you can't pay your taxes in back rubs or barrels of oil or anything. Like, you have to bring your crypto or anything else to cash to pay the IRS. So they can force you to use dollars, and as long as you're forced to use dollars, at least in the United States, it's going to have value because you're always going to have to come down to it. So where Waves comes in is it's not so much Waves will replace the dollar. That's not what anyone's trying to do, at least no one that I know. It's more like, if you're a Chuck E. Cheese and you win a bunch of tickets playing skee ball or whatever, those tickets that come out are tokens, and those tokens represent value for something else. And the more tickets you have, or the more tokens, you can redeem it for something at the end of your Chuck E. Cheese. Or same thing with a casino, where you trade your dollars for chips, and then those chips can be later exchanged for dollars, right? Okay. So that's kind of what Waves does, is that, say, if you want to create those digital skee ball tickets, that's what Waves allows you to do, or those digital casino chips. That's the real function, rather than any sort of grand political statement.
Okay. All right, the next question. Do you believe there are some undervalued or underdepreciated concepts or aspects of Wave platform?
Okay. Yeah. Well, of course. I think in general, Waves is underappreciated because it's too simple in some ways. So like. One area that I think is really neat about Waves, other than the token creation, the decentralized exchange, and all these good things, is that you can create your own alias for a Waves address. So, for example, Britain, say everyone else has like these long strings of impossible to remember characters for your Ethereum, your any Monero, whatever you have, right?
Yeah.
So you can, for the cost of 0.001 Waves, which is what, 0.2 of a cent right now. 2/100ths of a cent maybe, and you can create a Waves address with your name. So for example, it'll just be Waves Britain, and if someone asks you what's your address, instead of having like, okay, you got to copy, you have to paste, you have to do all this stuff, just Waves Britain. So for example, on your YouTube channel, if someone wants to donate, where you probably, I don't know if you have a donate area, but people have the Bitcoin, LTC, all that stuff you could have, but then you have Waves Britain.
Okay.
And then you can receive all of those assets from an address that everyone will remember. So, if someone wanted to donate, they could only really do it while watching your channel because they would have to copy and paste it. But say they wanted to donate, and they, just remember, like, I really love his content. I can tell he's really working hard at producing content, day after day, rain or shine, right? And then he could go to his Waves account and just send it to you with just remembering the Waves address Britain. And you can create that alias. And I think it goes into simplifying this blockchain thing. Is that, this really simple feature, it's probably not the most complicated feature of all time, but small things like this is what makes it possible for people to use it. Normal people to remember their address. Because you go on Venmo or PayPal and it's super easy, like send money. You type in a name, send money, and we need blockchain to move closer to that, where you don't have to think as much to do everything.
Grandma, granddad,
sure,
probably don't have a clue how to send anything on cryptos these days because it's a little bit challenging. I was just at my mother's birthday party and her friends were asking me, what do I do on the side? And I was like, I do crypto videos. And one of the ladies worked for Deloitte. Okay. And she was like, I'm hearing a lot of information about blockchain technology and cryptocurrencies, but I don't know where to start or how to transact money. And I was like, it's a little bit difficult right now, but I told her in the future, banks and stock markets, exchanges, huge stock markets, they'll be able to simplify everything. Sure. And you guys are on the front edge of transforming those things to make it very, very easy for common users to use your platform.
Well, I think that's what a good business should do, is that they should take all of the complexity of the world and then give you simplicity up front. Yeah. Because we all have enough complexity if you have kids and a wife or everything going on, and you have housing payments to make. Like, we don't generally like more complexity. And how we think about it, we just have to think like, would my mother be interested in this technology? And if you're developing blockchain solutions for enterprise, who cares, right? Yeah. But if we want to make this usable and functional for daily life, creating a token, why do I want to create a token? And answer these sort of questions. I think it's going to be hard for us to expand this for the potential of blockchain. Yeah. If it's just in the hands of enterprise companies, and not relevant to everyday people.
Okay. So, you guys will be presenting at the Voice of Blockchain?
Well, I will be.
You'll be there? Yes. Could you tell everyone how you guys got invited?
Okay, I asked. Okay, that was my killer app. Like, please, I'm nice. I won't eat too much. Won't steal too many light bulbs or toilet paper.
Okay.
And they said, okay, sure. Yeah, I've done a little presenting for the Waves meetup in Chicago, and I think there's not enough people in the blockchain universe that are making things easy.
Yes.
And they're making things amazing, but it's not easy yet. At least those aren't the presentations I'm hearing yet. So, that's basically what I'm going to be doing in the Voice of Blockchain. Is I'm going to give a talk on how how we can see the death of the gift card, hopefully within the next 10, 15 years. It's not like the enemy of the people, the gift card, but in terms of, if you really think about it, if you get a gift card or frequent flyer points or credit card rewards points, you're locked into their little world. It's very difficult for you to exchange your frequent flyer points with someone else. They usually charge you something. It's very anti-consumer, and you're really boxed in. So what you can do with token creation is create your own frequent flyer points system. And instead of locking you in as a customer to you can only use these points with British Airways or whatever, just saying because your name is Brit, just came there. But it's very anti-consumer. So hopefully in the future, what you can do is say British Airways again. Instead of having this encrypted point system, they'll just create a token, and then if you fly, 100 or 10,000 miles, you get 100 tokens, and they'll just be able to use this sort of system, and then say I don't want to ever fly British Airways. Say the stewardess, spills a drink on me and hates me and loses my luggage. I say, I don't want these points.
Yeah.
How about I just go to the decentralized exchange or some other exchange and just sell them for another asset that I actually want? And maybe these large companies aren't willing to give up that power yet. They want you on their platform. But if you're a smaller company and you don't have the means to compete with British Airways, and obviously if you're an airline.
Yeah.
But let's say you're a massage therapist, or you're an accountant. You can start using these sort of solutions in your company that cost $2 that cost British Airways, tens of millions of dollars to operate. And because of blockchain, this is now not only possible, it's already here. It's just we need to use it properly. So that's what my talk is going to be on, just to how it's democratizing just this aspect of the economy.
Could we get a sneak peek of are there any coins that you guys any coins that have been developed on Waves that had a little spark out there, or are there any companies in Chicago, since we are in Chicago, that are really asking about Waves platform?
Here's yes and no. What I can give is a couple of success stories, as far as I consider them. So one of them is called Primal Base, and so they're a co-working site, and they're based in Amsterdam. And so they created an ICO where they sold 1,000 tokens of Primal Base tokens, and built off Waves, and they sold these to the market. And if you buy one of these tokens, it gives you lifetime access to one of their co-working sites.
Okay.
So if you're in that 1,000, there's some being exchanged right now, probably as we speak, and you can sit on that. And they took that initial funding and they built out more co-working sites. Okay. So they started from Amsterdam, they moved to New York, and maybe Berlin, something like that. So as they grow, obviously if you're a token holder, the value of that token increases because it has that much more utility, and then you could theoretically sell it. And from what I understand, one thing that they're going to be doing with Waves is that you can lease this token to someone else for a period of time, and they'll pay you rent on your token, kind of like a taxi medallion, where it's like you have a finite number, you have a share of a finite number of this asset, and with that you can use that as collateralized. You can lend off of it without risk of sending it to somebody and then promising that
they can get it back in return.
Exactly. So I thought that was like a solid real world way that this token creation can help you build build different models for businesses. And another one that I personally invested in is a beehive company, a honey company. So they took this money up front, they did a token sale, and it's also Wave's project. And so they needed this money for the land, the hives, to buy the queen bees, as it were. And so they got all this money up front from the token sale built on Waves, and then they're going to pay out in physical honey over. So not tokens, not anything, but you lock up your token with them, and then while it's locked up, you get deliveries of physical honey. So I mean, it's just there's a lot of. This is just one example of what can be done. For example, you do the same thing with wine, right?
Yeah.
Like if you sell futures of wine, you take some money up front, and then those tokens represent a future stream or of this wine, for instance.
Or the percentage of the amount of wine you're going to receive, something like that.
Whatever.
Yeah, whatever they want,
And this can be done for all sorts of different industries, and that's just one way you can do it.
Okay.
So I don't have all the answers. I don't. I'm not even. I'm like mildly clever, and I'm decently aware of things. But so I'm always really interested in meeting other entrepreneurs who have really great ideas about this token creation ICO craze. It's kind of going through a lull right now, but longer term, I think it's a better way of raising money than going to an equity investor, with a tin cup in your hand and saying like, "Please give me money so I can make you rich."
Yeah.
Usually that's not how it works, right? I mean, like, it's like if you go to a singles bar and you tell people your story about how awesome you are, and it's like, "Oh, well, you seem pretty desperate to me, actually." I'm not terribly impressed with your story. With say if you're selling tokens, the cool thing is you're talking to your end customer. Like your customer is helping you raise money. So, and your customer has values, has things that they care about other than what your equity investors might be caring. Well, they just care about return, right?
Right.
But for example, say I invest in this beehive company, this honeybee. So I want high quality honey because I eat it, and I want to do something that's good for the environment because there's so much destruction from bees because of they take them to almond fields and they're not very nutritious, and the honey's not very good. So I have a different interest than an equity investor might in this honey hive, because they were like, well, you know what, honey doesn't return as much as if I did something else with the money. But me as a consumer, I have a different set of values. So I think that there's a lot of potential for companies that have an interest in social value, social utility, beyond just the return on investment. So,
So you guys are just not looking on how everybody wants to get rich. You're basically looking for moral values.
As a consumer,
as a consumer,
right,
There's
exactly.
nothing wrong with that. I never thought about that on that aspect, or even on that level. Another question, with Waves, have you guys run into any like legal problems with the government due to the platform you guys have? Like with the ICOs now. Well, you guys wouldn't run into it because somebody else will be producing it.
There you go.
But like overall, are you guys worried about the government or anything due to the platform?
That's fine. Well, okay. There's Waves, there's me, and then there's others. So I think as long as there is this uncertainty, when it comes to how will this be regulated? Are these regulated as securities? Even if they're utility tokens? It's not terribly clear right now. I personally feel, especially because I'm focusing on smaller businesses, 1, 2, 3 person shops, I don't think the SEC is going to come after them, assuming they're not defrauding people.
Right.
But for maybe the people that run Waves and they generate some fees and so on from managing people's ICOs, perhaps. But the thing is, we have a big world, and if the United States isn't going to do it, Malta will do it, or Singapore will do it, or Japan will do it. So I don't think as Americans, I assume we're all Americans here, that we can be so provincial to say like, oh well, it's illegal here, and just be done with it. Like I think there's got to be a way that we can both protect consumers or investors or whatever you want to call them. And it's like a new class of people, right? So what do we call it? Maybe we should just get a new division to handle it. I don't know. I don't think we have the answers yet. It's just because I don't know if we're about the same age, but I remember when the internet was coming along, and people would be like, "Oh, so what's the internet? Is it kind of like, is it like a TV?" It's like it's a little bit TV-ish, yeah. But it's like, okay, is it like a phone? It's like, it does some phone stuff, but it's not really a phone. Like same thing with like the radio. So like this hybrid. Say I'm buying the Beehive thing. Yeah. I'm buying it. Maybe I make a return. Maybe I don't. But I'm kind of a consumer. I'm kind of an investor, and I'm kind of somewhere in between. And I think that we don't have the regulation right now to tell us like this is what we are. So I don't know. I predict politicians will do the dumbest possible thing. So whatever that is, like right now they've got elections coming up in a couple months. Fortunately I think it's not important enough for them to really politicize. So
with waves, coin wise,
sure.
Are majority of the people using the platform in the United States or outside of the United States?
That I don't know.
Okay.
It's a good question. I think a lot of the ICO projects are American.
Okay.
But not the majority.
Okay.
So I think there's quite a few Russians. I think there's a few projects, quite a few in the Netherlands. That seems to be like a waves hotspot. Germany, I believe. So yeah, it's a worldwide phenomenon. Like the B company is actually a Romanian company.
Okay.
So yeah, it can be all over. I'm not sure who the users are, and it's anonymous. So I don't know if I'm supposed to know.
So since we're in Chicago, and we're seeing like the ETF is actually going in downtown Chicago with the CBOE. Do you think the ETF is going to go through?
I'll be honest. I mean, that's like I said. Blockchain's huge, and there's a lot of things. I don't know. Like, I guess it depends on how physical custody will be managed, and because if nobody's taking any, or I don't even know who's in the ETF either.
Okay.
Right? So,
the Winklevoss twins, the guys who sued Facebook before it happened, they had an ETF and they had a company that the SEC didn't like.
Okay.
That was going to make all the transactions. Well, that was going to hold the Bitcoin and make all the transactions for the person who put their money into the ETF. But with the CBOE, futures market, options market, it seems like the SEC and the stock market, those guys are buddies already. Okay. So I would think they may have a little more hedge than some random guys that's coming out of nowhere to be able to profit off of this. And usually the big boys like to play with the big boys first before they pass it down to the lower market guys. So that's just something different. And before we end this, so we are at Athena.trade. It's a fantastic place for the cryptocurrency concept. It has offices and small business that will grow in the future. And before we leave, how can people reach you? I know you're going to be at the Voice of Blockchain, but are there any other ways?
Okay, so yes, you can give me a back rub at the Voice of Blockchain. I will be there. And Twitter is probably my favorite. I know Telegram's a thing, but Twitter's just better. So it's at the James Galvin. and I run a Waves meetup in Chicago where I'm really focused on bringing in entrepreneurs who want to experiment with how you can use tokens to create or help your business, because that's how I got into Waves in the first place. And lastly, I have a YouTube channel that hopefully you'll link to, where I go through various scenarios about, say, if you're a restaurant, say you're an accountant, say you're a podcaster, how you can use token creation to benefit you. And I'd like to seed that garden, see like who's if you are any of those people, that you can use it, and at least get you thinking if you're not. So depending on who you are.
All right, thank you. And everybody, please hit the like button. Please hit the subscriber button, and the links for his channel will be at the bottom of the description. And everybody, have a good day, and everybody have a good night, and enjoy the crypto life.